The story starts with a girl named Ivy who is always unlucky. One night, she runs away as the villagers chase her. When she was 5, a test showed she was a weak tamer with no magic skills. Because of this, her parents threw her out of the house. But Ivy isn't an ordinary girl. She is a human reborn from another world. Although her past life is mostly a blur, she sometimes hears faint voices from it. While escaping, she meets a tiny slime and names it Sora. And such begins the heartwarming survival story of a small girl. Ivy races through the forest, darting between trees as if in a high-stakes chase. She sets up a clattering trap with pots and pans hanging from branches, ready to ensnare anyone who stumbles upon it. Next, she retrieves hidden bags from her secret stash, marveling as they magically absorb their contents. Strapping the bags on, she mutters about giving up on happiness long ago, abandoned by her parents and unwanted by everyone else. When she tries to practice her blade skills, she loses her balance and tumbles down a hill, lamenting her lack of skill in running and hiding. Wishing her life wasn't so chaotic, eventually she stumbles upon a junkyard.
Dumping ground!
And narrowly avoids being skewered by makeshift spears. Among the rubble, she finds a new jacket and a map, a small but hopeful discovery. Yet, the persistent thought of being an outcast haunts her. She soon notices a man summoning slimes to devour garbage, his control over them intriguing yet intimidating.
Question is, which direction did she go? I'm thinking she made for Latov since it's the closest village.
Ivy briefly wonders if, in a past life, she might have found the slimes cute, but her curiosity quickly turns to fear when the man reveals that her village leader has placed a bounty on her head, dead or alive. Panicked, Ivy flees into a marsh swarming with slimes. Escaping their reach, she falls off a cliff, but is saved by landing in a tree. After patching herself up with potions, she finds a peaceful stream where she cleans up, chops off her hair, and decides to disguise herself as a boy to better blend in. As she stands by the water, she resolves to start anew. Amidst these struggles, she spots a tiny slime resting on a leaf. Despite everything, she finds it unexpectedly adorable. The slime is a rare kind, but also incredibly weak, much like Ivy herself. This shared frailty forms a strange bond between them. Consulting her compendium, Ivy learns the slime is so delicate that even a soft gust or a light touch could harm it. Saddened by its vulnerability and short lifespan, she carefully tends to it, feeling a deep connection. When a stray breeze knocks the fragile creature over, Ivy catches it just in time, determined to protect it as long as possible. She shares her thoughts with the slime, lamenting the unfairness of a world where some thrive while others, like her and the slime, struggle just to exist. In Ortoguz, every child receives their skills at the age of 5, shaping their destiny. Ivy's taming skill was her cruel fate. Born without stars, she was incapable of taming even a single creature. Rejected by her family and community, she found solace only in her dim memories of a past life and the kindness of a fortune teller who has since passed. Now, hunted by her village for crimes she didn't commit, Ivy questions her very place in the world and the meaning of being starless. The next morning, Ivy searches for the tiny slime, heartbroken over the only creature she's truly connected with. Tears fill her eyes as loneliness grips her. But she remembers the fortune teller's advice to journey to the royal capital. Checking her map, she's relieved to find the slime still alive. Following the compendium's guidance, she channels magic into the slime and names it Sora, meaning sky, inspired by the vast, boundless blue above. With renewed hope, Ivy sets out on her journey with her newfound companion, embracing her name and the resilience it represents. While catching mice for dinner and planning her journey to the royal capital, Ivy suddenly notices movement nearby. Alarmed, she quickly climbs a tree to hide as a herd of giant ants marches past. She feels relieved when they don't spot her. Once the danger is gone, Ivy notices that Sora seems a little bigger than before.
Wait, did you get a little bigger, Sora?
She also discovers a small cut on her cheek and uses a potion to heal it, though she wonders why her supply of potions seems to be running low. While exploring, Ivy comes across a wanted poster with her face on it, offering a large reward of 500 Dao, a fortune in her area. Confused about why she's worth so much, she hears a faint voice from her past suggesting it's because she's considered a criminal, a thought that troubles her. Seeing another poster, Ivy is annoyed by the poor drawing of her face and angrily tears it down. However, she admits the newer posters look more like her, making her situation even harder to ignore. In the next town, Ivy feels a pang of envy watching the townsfolk use everyday magic. Passing by a butcher shop, she thinks about selling her mice, but hesitates until the butcher, with his sharp nose, notices and offers to buy them. With some money in her pocket, she eyes the bread shop, feeling hungry. At first she walks away, but eventually returns and buys bread with the help of the kind shopkeeper. That night, Ivy eats her meal perched in a tree, sharing half with Sora. However, she quickly realizes Sora can't eat the bread, leaving her curious about what it might like. The next day, while wandering, Ivy finds a trash pile and spots expired potions. To her surprise, Sora absorbs the potions, bottles and all, revealing an unusual ability. Ivy continues her routine in the village, selling mice, buying bread, and bathing in the river. The kindness of the townspeople makes her wish she could stay forever, a stark contrast to the harsh rejection she faced from her father. One day, Ivy notices adventurers in the village and fears one might be a bounty hunter.
That's quite an assortment of magic bags you have.
Panicked, she flees past the butcher and bread shop.
I dare you to say that again, you rat!
It's all right.
Heartbroken to see her wanted posters displayed prominently. Though the town feels welcoming, Ivy knows she can't stay. Tearfully, she hugs Sora, her loyal companion, and leaves the village. As she travels, Ivy reaches a crossroads and decides to take a break to rest and eat. She soon stumbles upon what appears to be a golden apple tree, but to her horror, it's actually a monster that preys on adventurers. Ivy tries to escape but ends up barely defending herself from a brutal attack on her wrist. In the chaos, Sora begins to glow, and a terrifying thought crosses Ivy's mind. What if slimes too can consume humans? In another part of the world, a man hurries upstairs full of joy to greet his wife and their newborn daughter, Famicia. Surrounded by love, the family shares laughter and happiness. As Famicia grows, she becomes a kind and helpful child, loved by her family. During meals, her sister uses soothing magic to enhance their time together. The family works on projects and cherishes their blessings, but underneath there's concern about the expectations for Famicia and her sister to marry, reflecting the pressures of family and society. Famicia dreams of having a beautiful dress, but her father thinks it's too early. Her mother, however, reminds him how quickly time flies. Famicia is nearly 5 years old, meaning her birthday gifts, and more importantly, her skill, are approaching. Her father reassures her that a skill ensures a place in the world, though no one knows which skill or how many stars she'll receive until it's granted by the gods. Skills and their star ratings shape a person's future. Famicia's older brother has a 3-star skill, making him highly respected, while Famicia, with her modest 1-star skill, often faces his teasing. When asked what skill she wants, Famicia confidently says she wants to be a tamer, which her brother mocks. Her father reminds her that skills are gifts to help live in the world, not to make friends with monsters. A knock interrupts their conversation. It's Mistress Luba, the fortune teller. She's come to offer prayers as Famicia approaches her skill ceremony. Luba recalls Famicia's early ability to speak fluently, which worried her mother, especially when Famicia spoke about magic and reincarnation. Luba advised Famicia to keep her past life memories a secret, even from her family. Now, Luba reassures them that Famicia will receive a good skill, though her own 1-star foresight can't reveal its details. When Famicia's brother mocks Luba, their father scolds him, acknowledging Luba's importance to the village's farming. On her 5th birthday, Famicia's parents accompany her to the village priest for the skill ritual. As she touches the sacred water, she receives the taming skill, bringing joy to her and her parents. But their happiness turns to shock when the water bursts, a sign that her taming skill is starless. Despite her parents' protests, the priest declares it a divine decision. Devastated, they return home in silence. At home, the family is heartbroken. Famicia's father, drunk and angry, slams the table, questioning how this could happen when the rest of the family has stars. Famicia tries to speak, but he silences her, calling the starless abandoned by the gods and doubting if she's even his child. In his anger, he smashes a wooden horse he once gave her,
With no stars, she's nothing!
yelling that a starless Tamer is useless. Her mother collapses in tears, and when Famicia tries to comfort her, her brother Facilla grabs her and yells at her to stay away. When Famicia pleads for her older sister's help, she only receives a hateful glare. Her brother throws her to the ground and orders her to leave. Heartbroken, Famicia runs out of the house, feeling lost and betrayed. Walking aimlessly through the village, she hears whispers from the villagers about the starless child abandoned by God. The village head ominously warns that a starless child signals disaster, urging everyone to prepare for hard times. Famicia faces hostility from peers who throw stones at her. Wounded and desperate, she flees through the night, haunted by the voice of her past self. Lost in the rain, cold and hungry, she tries using magic for the first time, but collapses from exhaustion. When she wakes up, she's in the care of Luba, who explains that Famicia has very little magical energy and must be careful not to overuse it. Luba gives her a magic bag and tells her she must journey to learn, grow, and find friends who will accept her despite her starlessness. Though touched by Luba's kindness, Famicia continues to face persecution. Villagers see her as a bad omen, and she's forced to flee once again when they chase her. In her lowest moment, Famicia prepares to give up, but Sora, her slime companion, appears. It heals her wounds and begins communicating with her. Inspired by their bond, Famicia finds strength and decides to keep living, determined to find her place in the world despite being unwanted. As they embark on their journey, Ivy, formerly known as Famicia, reflects on their experiences, grateful for Sora's newfound energy and their growing resilience. Amidst scavenging for supplies and navigating the challenges of their world, Ivy learns more about Sora's preferences and capabilities, experimenting with potions and discovering their potential. With Sora by her side, Ivy faces the unknown future with determination and hope, ready to embrace whatever adventures lie ahead. Ivy is so happy because she thought she'd always travel alone, always live alone, but now she'll always have Sora. She gets excited to see some berries and gushes over the delicious taste. She tries to offer some to Sora, but he isn't too excited. Later that evening, the two enjoy dinner, but Sora eats potions non-stop, all the way to the point that Ivy is concerned she won't have any potions left for herself. So her past self gives the advice, if you're sleeping, you can't be eating. Ivy takes the advice to heart, and atop a tree branch, she begins to tell Sora a bedtime story, her favorite one from when she was little. Long, long ago, the world was at war. One day, the king gathered together magicians who could see the future and had them all make predictions about how the war would end. The future they saw was the end of the world, a truly terrifying sight. The magicians discussed their visions, and then, in order to protect the world, they cast powerful magic. No one knows what that magic was, and no one can use it now. The only one who can is a child who comes from another world, as it's a forgotten magic. Magic that is vast and scary and quiet, lonely and untouchable. Dewdrop falls again, waking up Sora like the little alarm he is, so Ivy pats him to make him stop. However, she gets upset. with herself waking up to find Sora had already eaten all of her potions. She nabs some mice in a mouse trap. Just kidding. She accidentally catches a big snake. She's reluctant to deal with it, but she knows it might still fetch her some money if she sells it. So she grabs a cloth from her magic bag and covers the snake, confining it with a knot. Walking through a path, she smells something, while Sora freaks out over it. She's curious as to what it is and decides to check it out, only to see a caravan that had been completely wrecked by some bandits. She decides to hide Sora in her bag, and when she looks in further, she's horrified to find some men who've been bloodied and battered. No way bandits would do this. This had to be the work of monsters. Ivy decides to make a run for it, until she's far away, panting and completely out of breath. She spots Latom and makes her way into town, and even though she's safe now, she feels like she has to tell someone. She spots the sign for Town Hall, and even though she's nervous, she enters. The people from Town Hall ask the little boy, Ivy, what she's got there. She tells them it's a snake she caught, but that's not important. Ivy tells them about the people she found passed out on the way here, the cart that was on fire, and people who have been attacked and didn't survive. A man walks up to Ivy to get a better account of what had happened, hoping the attackers were only bandits. But after hearing about how the horses were also killed instead of stolen, he reluctantly agrees it was most likely a monster attack. The man then tells everyone to locate the monsters as soon as possible, and he thanks Ivy, explaining she'll be rewarded as soon as the monsters are found. And the woman explains in this town, people are rewarded for giving monster tip-offs to Town Hall, is to give the town countermeasures before people can get hurt. The woman hands Ivy a document to claim her reward for completing the task, prompting Ivy to sell the rare female snake she caught. The buyer informs her of its rarity and offers her 3 Geidel, equivalent to 300 Dao or 30 field mice. Delighted with her earnings, Ivy heads to another dump, where she discovers over 21 magic bags. Initially overwhelmed, she organized them based on their carrying capacity and returns to town to buy more potions. Encountering the man from earlier, Ivy learns that her tip about the monsters led to the dispatch of high-ranked adventurers. She's directed to collect her reward at Town Hall, where she receives 5 Geidel and 2 Ladle, totaling 280 field mice worth of money. Content with her earnings, Ivy spends the evening relaxing and feeding Sora berries before resting for the night. The following morning, Ivy finds one of her rat-catching traps broken, worrying about her future earnings. However, she recalls the tip reward she received for reporting the goblin attack and hesitates to use it unless absolutely necessary. Following Sora's lead, Ivy senses the smell of blood and discovers an injured beast known as an Adandera. Despite its ferocity, Ivy consoles the creature, promising to stay by its side. Moved by their interaction, Sora heals the Adandera, transforming it into a friendly giant. Ivy names him Ciel, meaning sky, and introduces him to Sora. As they journey together, Ivy hides Sora in her magic bag, but realizes Ciel won't fit. However, Ciel demonstrates his intelligence by hiding in the bushes, ensuring their safety. She arrives at the gate of the next town and sees the tall guard named Ogudo, who seems a little scary. Even the passing travelers seem to scare Ivy as well, with Sora also freaking out for some reason. The traveler tries to enter the town, but the guard stops him, asking the man what business he has with Latome village. The traveler tells him he's visiting a friend. However, when the guard asks what the friend's name is, the man nervously responds, Zoliot. But the guard says there's no one in the village by that name. The guard interrogates the traveler, discovering illicitly brewed alcohol in his magic bag, and promptly sending him to jail with the assistance of his fellow guard, Vera Vera. Ivy, realizing the traveler's true nature, wonders if Sora somehow sensed it beforehand, receiving his confirming in response. Despite feeling intimidated by the red-haired guard, Ivy considers giving up on passing through Latome village, but decides against it, fearing that running away would only arouse suspicion. As Ivy attempts to walk through the village, she is stopped by the guard, who questions her about her parents. Feeling intimidated by his imposing demeanor, Ivy notices a mantis on his shoulder, causing the guard to momentarily panic before thanking her once it's gone. She tries to leave but is stopped again as the guard continues his inquiry. Ivy mentions she's from Latomi village, surprising the guard with the distance she traveled. He reassures her of safety in Latomi and suggests becoming an adventurer for sustenance. As Ivy navigates the bustling village, she considers the state of her home village and seeks opportunities to sell field mice and wild game to the butcher. The butcher warns her about the dangers of hunting alone, mentioning the possibility of encountering no-no-shi monsters. Ivy then heads to the adventurer's clearing to set up a resting space, but is startled by the presence of the supervisor guard named Roygord, who advises her on obtaining a permit for access to the area. Ivy then sets up a resting tarp and crashes on the pleasant-feeling ground. Looking in front of her are bigger tents, implying there are mid-level adventurers there, while in her area the smaller tents imply novice adventurers. Seeing the tents made her wish she had one, since she'd have to worry less about the weather. And of course, she'd be able to let Sora out of the bag, but come to think of it, she still has the tip reward. Ivy heads back into town to do some tent shopping and finds a second-hand tent shop. She turns from reading the shop sign and is frightened to see the town guard ask her if she's looking for a tent, but he also gets a little startled, and the other guard, Vera, scolds him, saying not to scare the children, with Ivy telling them she has no tent. The guard wonders if she had gotten driven out of her village with nothing. Then Vera remarks the difficulties in Latomi must be real. The guard with red hair informs Ivy that he will bring her to another store and starts pulling her in that direction. Nevertheless, Vera reprimands Ogudo for his roughness, considering his larger size. He starts to say sorry. Villavera affirms that his friend may be dull, but he is genuinely a good-hearted person. Therefore, they make their way to a different tent store. Upon learning that Ivy is from Latomi village, the shop owner expresses sympathy towards her. Next, she inquires about the cost of a tent. She informs them that she possesses 2 ladal, which equates to 200 field mice, and everyone is surprised to find out that this young boy has a large sum of money. In the previous village, Ivy gave a very generous tip to the residents and received money in return, a gratuity given as a form of appreciation, and she receives praise from everyone for her fortunate discovery. The shop owner then presents this new tent model, which is light and sturdy. After marking her tent with the kanji for Sora, Ivy receives a new model of a magic bag from the shop owner, enhancing the security of her belongings. As Ivy bids farewell to the guards and sets up her new tent, she reflects on the kindness she's encountered during her journey and celebrates her newfound sense of home. However, her celebration is interrupted by a group of adventurers accusing her of theft and attempting to bully her. The situation escalates until the clearing guard intervenes, confirming Ivy's ownership of the tent and detaining the adventurers. Grateful for the guard's assistance, Ivy receives a sparkling potion as consolation and spends the night peacefully with Sora. The next morning, Ivy steps out of her tent and comments on the beautiful weather. She informs Sora that they'll be going hunting today. As she leaves the adventurers' camp, a guard greets her warmly and advises her to be careful while hunting. On her way to the city gates, more guards greet her by name and make friendly remarks. Ivy feels a bit puzzled about how they all know her name, but continues to the forest. In the forest, Ivy faces the usual trouble of Nonoshi, destroying her traps. She grows concerned that she won't catch enough to sell, which would hinder her plan to save money for the harsh winter. While setting traps, she senses a presence and turns to see Ciel, the big cat, holding a bunch of rabbits it had hunted. Ciel drops them at her feet, signaling for her to take them. Grateful for the help, Ivy hugs Ciel and notices that the 9 rabbits are perfectly intact, though she wonders how Ciel managed to hunt them so cleanly. With time pressing, she focuses on preparing the meat to sell, while Sora and Ciel entertain each other. By the time she finishes, the 2 creatures are fast asleep. Ivy wakes Sora and says they must head back to sell the meat while it's fresh. Upon closer inspection, she thinks Ciel might be an Adendera, a creature she read about in a book. However, she's surprised by how gentle Ciel is. Compared to the savage image described, Ciel cuddles up to her before disappearing into the bushes, leaving Ivy and Sora to return to town. As they walk, Ivy comments on Sora's growing strength, but notes that its clumsy nature hasn't changed when it trips over a branch. Once in town, Ivy heads to the butcher shop. The butcher inspects the meat and praises its freshness and quality, noting that the organs are intact. When asked if she used traps, Ivy hesitates before giving a vague answer. The butcher assumes it's a trade secret and stops questioning. Pleased with the quality of the meat, she pays Ivy and encourages her to bring more in the future. Relieved, Ivy feels grateful for Ciel's help in making the sale possible. While walking back, guards greet her, asking if she made good money or faced any danger from Nonoshi. Exhausted from replying, Ivy hides in an alley to avoid further chatter. She's soon found by Verivera, who asks why she's hiding. Verivera explains that Oguto instructed the guards to check on her if she seemed troubled. Ivy feels relieved that their concern isn't because they suspect her true identity. As Ivy explores the market, she notices Zoro fruit, a specialty from her hometown of Latami. The fruit seller tells her about the village's struggles due to a bad crop year and the absence of Mistress Luba, the fortune teller. Rumors circulate that the village head neglected Luba's illness and blamed a child, likely Ivy herself, as the starless, cursed child. This revelation brings back painful memories of her harsh treatment in Latami and her family's betrayal. Later, while sitting in her tent with Sora, Ivy reflects on the chaos in Latami and feels grateful for the kindness of strangers like the fruit vendor, who gifted her a Zaro fruit. As she bites into it, childhood memories resurface, including the taste of the fruit as a token of gratitude for Mistress Luba's kindness. Ivy compares her improved life now to the rejection she faced before, and wonders if this newfound peace is what happiness feels like. The next day, Ivy resumes her routine, greeting the watchman before heading out to set traps while avoiding Nonoshi. At a garbage dump, she senses people approaching and quickly hides Sora. Unfortunately, it's the same adventurers who harassed her before. One blames her for his friend's arrest and demands she hand over Sora. Ivy refuses, calling Sora her friend. Despite their threats, Ivy stands her ground. The situation escalates and Ivy flees, but she uses a rope to trap one of the adventurers. The girl adventurer taunts the trapped man, who vows revenge. Suddenly, Ciel appears, ready to attack. The girl faints from fear, and the man flees, but Ciel quickly catches him. Afterwards, Ciel seeks head pats from Ivy. She hears familiar voices and realizes it's Captain Ogudo and Verivera, who came to investigate the commotion. Ivy points out the culprits, impressing Ogudo and Verivera. Ogudo reveals that the adventurers were wanted for murder and other crimes, and they're sentenced to slavery. Ivy receives a large reward.
This was quite the accomplishment.
Increasing her savings to 5,000 field mice. Following Ogudo's advice, she opens a bank account at the trade guild to secure her funds. The trio enjoys a meal of nonoshi, skewers together, with Ogudo treating Ivy. They reassure her that her worth isn't tied to her skill level, but rather her character and accomplishments. After Ivy leaves, Ogudo and Verivera review the list of names from Latomi and find no record of an Ivy. The closest match is a girl named Femicia, who fled alone. Ogudo feels sad, wondering if Ivy doesn't trust him enough to share her real story. Verivera suggests something terrible may have happened, which is why Ivy struggles to trust others. Ogudo, however, believes that one day Ivy will tell him everything. Ivy's day begins with Sora bounding about with newfound energy, leaving Ivy marveling at his increased speed. While resting, Ivy ponders Sora's evolution, suspecting it might be connected to his healing of Ciel's wounds. Their adventures lead them to a discovery of Yamamo plants, though Ivy's tranquility is momentarily disrupted by thoughts of Nonoshi monsters lurking nearby. However, her fears are quelled when Ciel emerges from the bushes, reassuring Ivy with her presence. As night falls, Ivy enjoys rabbit skewers by the campfire, grateful for Ciel's assistance in catching them. Yet, a sense of unease grips Ivy as she senses a mysterious presence watching her from the shadows. Later, as Ivy checks her traps, she encounters a chilling black fog that drives her to flee, only to be confronted by a human-like figure generating the fog. Ciel's roar disperses the figure, but leaves Ivy pondering its origins. Their journey continues atop Ciel until the tranquility is shattered by an aggressive ogre scaling the cliff. With Ciel engaging in combat, Ivy places Sora in her bag and braces for danger. As ogres close in on her, she finds herself surrounded until a man named Ratla intervenes, using a powerful flame attack to repel the ogres. After rescuing Ivy from a trap, Ratlua is surprised to discover a child in danger and quickly aids her escape. Joined by Ratlua's friend, Mira, and her summoned slimes, Ivy finds herself in the company of capable allies who dispatch the remaining ogres. Ratlua, initially taken aback by Ivy's presence, soon finds himself impressed by her resilience and courage. Another ogre attempted to attack, but was brought down by Shifale's arrows. Shifale rebukes Ratlua for creating the traps, as they failed to capture any ogres. However, Ratlua avoids the subject. Later, Ivy speaks with the suppression team. They have arrived in this location to hunt the numerous monsters that have taken up residence there. The traps were designed to capture ogres, but due to Ratlua's actions, the entire area caught on fire. There was minimal benefit in utilizing them. They are concerned about whether Ivy is injured in any way. As Ivy tries to express her gratitude to the Blazing Sword group for saving her, Ratlua kindly introduces the members of their group, including their leader Caesar, the red-haired axe-wielder Nuga, the archer Shifale, and Mira, known as the Green Gale. Ivy, still feeling a bit awkward, thanks them formally, causing her hood to fall over her head, which elicits laughter from the group. As they return to the expanded campsite, Ivy finds it bustling with other adventurers seeking respite. With the perimeter protected by monster repellent, the group sets up camp, and Caesar invites Ivy to place her tent next to theirs. As the Blazing Sword group heads out for their meeting, they leave Ratlua behind, who is visibly nervous about his cooking duty for the night. Despite his 3-star flame attack skills, Ratlua lacks confidence in his culinary abilities, fearing his food might taste strange or be too gamey. Ivy offers to help him cook, and together they prepare a delicious meal using wild rabbit meat. Ivy's expertise impresses Ratlua, and the resulting dishes bring tears of joy to the eyes of the Blazing Sword group. Ivy's culinary knowledge shines as she explains how certain cooking techniques can enhance flavor and remove gaminess from meat. Mira returns to the campsite and is delighted by the meal. While Nuga nearly chokes from eating too quickly, Shifale expresses concern about leaving Ratlua in charge of dinner, but Ivy covers for him, claiming they cooked together. To further distract from Ratlua's insecurities, Ivy suggests a display of fire magic, which mesmerizes everyone. Later, as Ivy cleans the dishes, Caesar insists she take a break, but Ivy insists on finishing the task as a gesture of gratitude. Caesar joins her in cleaning, and Ratlua, overwhelmed by Ivy's kindness, falls over. Ivy's earnestness touches Ratlua, who sees her as the little brother he's always wanted, prompting playful banter from the rest of the group. In her tent, Ivy tends to Sora and reflects on the day's events, grateful to have met such kind-hearted adventurers. Meanwhile, Shifale, Nuga, and Caesar discuss Ivy, expressing concern for her well-being and noting her tendency to prioritize others over herself. Ratlua listened in from his bed, pondering these observations as the night comes to a peaceful close for Ivy and Sora. The next morning, Ivy went to the garbage bin and got surprised seeing so many used potions somewhere almost new. But then she noticed some slime absorbing a broken sword. Well, it was Mira's slime. She explained this was a rare metal-eating slime, but Ivy, after observing the slime taking too long to absorb the sword, thought if it was Sora, it would have eaten it in no time. Just then, Ivy once again started to get chills on her body. It was the same presence she felt that night, who was chasing her. Mira, seeing Ivy like this, asked what happened, but before Ivy could explain, the boys came throwing their trash, and suddenly the terrifying feeling vanished. At night, Ivy once again helped to do the cooking, and everyone liked it and ate to their stomachs full. Then Ivy wondered if CL was doing okay or not. But CL, while he was doing his father duty, observing everything from the hill, after the boys were done eating, they came to Ivy telling her to eat. Ivy said she already ate, but knew a boy said she had to eat like him to grow up. Ivy wondered if she ate like him, her stomach would explode. Just then, Mira came, and behind her were her twin brothers. Ivy had never seen twins in her life, so she was surprised seeing one in real life. Then Ratlua came explaining these three make up the adventurer. Group Green Gale, the twin bros, came close to Ivy, observing her some precious thing, saying once she grew up she could join their group. But Ratlua hugged Ivy, saying she can't because Ivy was going to be his little brother. Then Captain Caesar gave a heavy punch on Lou's head, saying to control himself. Then this bold dude, with some guys, also started coming towards Ivy, and seeing them, the twins and Mira made annoyed faces and left saying goodbye to Ivy. Ivy got confused with Mira's reaction, so Ratlua explained that the bald dude is the captain of the adventure group, Lightning King, and Mira is not comfortable around Captain Barolda. Then Captain Caesar introduced Ivy to Captain Barolda, and after a warm greeting, they came to the conclusion that the boys would take Ivy to the capital, which made Ivy very, very happy. When Ivy returned to her tent, she took Sora out and apologized for not talking with him the entire day. Sora started shouting in excitement, "Po po poo." Then Ivy took out all the potions and gave Sora to eat while he was munching away. Ivy once again started to feel this terrifying presence, getting very scared. While holding Sora to her chest, she started praying. Suddenly, that presence disappeared, and Ratlua whispered from outside, asking if Ivy was still awake. Relieved upon hearing Lou's voice, Ivy went outside, and Ratlua asked if she would help him cook breakfast tomorrow as well. Ivy agreed, and Ratlua left, saying sorry, and wonders if Ratlua could potentially be the source of the presence. Sora tries to explain, however, it's meaningless because Ivy doesn't get it. She wonders if tamers with stars like Mira would be able to understand what he's saying. He begins a statusy vibration, reminding Ivy of how he was shaking those times when they passed by the guy with the illegal alcohol and the gang of murderers. She decides to ask Sora about Ratlua, Caesar, Nuga, and Shifale, and Sora responds cheerfully. However, when hearing Mira of the Green Gale, he begins his fearful shakes, indicating she must be the source of the sickening aura. At the gate of Ottawa village, Ivy presents Captain Oguto from Latome as her guarantor, using her bank tablet, which grants her entry with a simple name signing. She marvels at the bustling town of Ottawa as they head to the adventurers' clearing to rest. Caesar explains that, despite clearing the monsters in the area, they can't return home yet due to the presence of dangerous individuals involved in abductions and slavery. Ivy shares her experience of being chased in the forest, which prompts Barolda's group to release a barrier for privacy. She recounts encountering a sickening presence before being saved by Ciel, the Adendala monster. The group praises Ivy's talent for sensing danger, acquired from her years living alone in the forest. Ivy mentions the dark presence she felt at camp, suspecting Mira, but refrains from divulging further details to protect Sora. As night falls, Ivy ponders her dilemma in her tent, comforted by Sora's presence. She recalls Luba's words about secrets coming to light and the need for allies in the future. In the morning, Caesar stops Ivy from making breakfast to cast a secluding barrier. They reveal they've uncovered a darker side to Mira and her brothers, suspecting them of involvement in the abductions. Ivy is surprised by their trust in her without concrete evidence. Ratlua asks Ivy why she cooks for them, to which she replies that she wants everyone to enjoy their meals. Her sincerity convinces them of her honesty. Ivy then reveals she is a tamer and that Sora, the slime she tamed, informed her about Mira. The group's trust in Ivy strengthens, and she is moved by their belief in her, despite her insecurities. She brings them back to her tent and introduces Sora and everyone stares in awe as they've never seen a rare transparent slime before. She's not sure why, but Sora somehow has the ability to see through bad people, and immediately, Baroda and Caesar understood why Ivy had to keep Sora a secret, since the rarity of the slime could have brought pursuers after them, so everyone in the group promises to keep him a secret. Rick Bird, one of the men, gently pets the cute slime creature. He decides to test Sora's ability to sense evil intentions. A blonde-haired man introduces himself as Malrik, but Sora panics upon realizing his true name is Lockreek. The bald man above him is actually Malrik, who secretly drank all of Shifali's alcohol the night before. While eating undercover, Caesar remarks that he never imagined the traitors would come from the Green Gale group. Barodas explains that it makes sense since they never found any clues about the abduction group. The enemies have been hiding in plain sight all along. Now that Mira, Torto, and Maruma are exposed as traitors, it will be easier to deal with them and take care of the remaining criminals. Ivy reluctantly agrees, and Retlua asks if it's hard for her to see Mira as a villain. Rickbert also thinks of Maruma as a good friend, which is why he wants to confront him personally. Baroda recounts how the kidnapping started about 10 years ago. People assumed the children were being taken by monsters. 7 years ago, Baroda and Caesar's team discovered the secret group while protecting victims who had escaped. Ivy concludes there must be more traitors in the organization, surprising everyone. If the group has been around for so long, there must be several teams of insiders. Caesar agrees, mentioning that during a raid, their plans were leaked to the criminals, and the hideout was empty. Only a select few, including the Green Gale, could have known their intentions. Adding to the problem, a noble supported the Green Gale's promotion, giving Baroda's team confidence in them. Nobles typically look down on adventurers, so why would this one endorse the Green Gale to prestigious groups? The team grows frustrated, realizing the nobles' involvement. They head to the Adventurers Guild to investigate the guildmaster, Rogleaf. Sora reacts positively to him. Then Birksby, the captain of the watch, introduces himself, followed by Ogrop, the vice captain. Sora responds well to both. Rogleaf asks the team to use their findings to expose the criminal group and identify the traitor leaking information. He orders all adventurers to gather. The group then visits a merchant's house, once used as the criminal's base. Guards remain stationed to preserve evidence. Birksby introduces Ivy to two guards, Zakas and Malgajula, the latter having green hair. Sora reacts to Malgajula, prompting Ivy to signal Baroda. Ratlua steps in to make a simple introduction, but Birksby scolds his subordinate angrily. Inside, Ogrop is upset as he trusted the individual. With all guards present, the team plans to uncover every traitor involved. By evening, exhaustion sets in after they discover 38 out of 150 watchmen are traitors, revealing how badly their efforts have been sabotaged. Later, Count Faltoria and Lord Ferranda arrive to commend their work. When introduced to Faltoria, Sora reacts again, hinting at the nobles' involvement in the crimes. However, Ferranda is seen as trustworthy. Faltoria leaves, and the town feels betrayed, as she was considered a hero. This betrayal confirms that a powerful authority figure was behind the crimes. Birksby feels overwhelmed, recalling failed raids and lost comrades due to his unintentional leaks to the Count. Frustrated, he punches a wall, blaming himself for his troops' deaths. The group goes to the room where Malgajula was stationed, planning to reassign him. While searching, Ivy's instincts tell her there might be a hidden compartment, like in stories. She notices a single book with a worn spine and pulls it, revealing a secret door filled with documents. Inside, they find vast wealth and evidence of the group's criminal activities. Birksby suggests leaving everything as it is to make the group believe their secrets are still safe. The next day, everyone is tired, having spent the night pondering the group's true scale. Because of the dangers, Ivy cannot be left alone. Ratlua accompanies her while she does laundry and asks if she is really a boy. Ivy begins to cry, feeling guilty for deceiving them. Ratlua assures her it's okay, understanding the risk girls face when traveling alone. He promised to act like he doesn't know. Mira from the Green Gale soon arrives, casually chatting and inviting Ivy to explore the town's sweets. Ratlua insists on joining, which Mira initially protests, but eventually agrees to. The group of 5, including Torto and Maruma, sneaking in, heads off together. Ratlua and Mila get closer to each other, but only to play rock, paper, scissors. Ratlua wins, so they go to his chosen spot. Ivy, however, seems puzzled about this playful game between the two childhood friends. At the sweet shop, Torto and Maruma enjoy desserts, but quickly finish and ask for more. Ratlua then questions why Ivy was invited out. Torto explains that Mila likes Ivy because he's a good kid. They wanted to meet Ivy, which led to the outing. Mila scolds her brothers for embarrassing her and nervously laughs when she turns to Ivy, noticing Sora's scared reaction. It's clear these 3 have dangerous energy. Ratlua stands up, prepared to defend Ivy, warning he won't hold back if they target her. The twins laugh it off, saying they don't want to fight Ratlua and his powerful 3-star flame attacks. However, Torto, knowing Ratlua lacks defense skills, teases the idea of sparring to see who's stronger. Mila interrupts, frustrated with how combat-skilled people often act uncivilized. Torto retorts, mocking Mila's tamer skills, saying she can only manage weak monsters like slimes that just handle trash. This comment saddens Mila. Ivy stands up for Mila, saying her 2-star skill is impressive. She adds that Mila's slimes, Lastal and Lidl, are rare creatures capable of destroying weapons. Ivy, who has explored many trash dumps, says everything, even what seems useless, holds value for someone. Mila feels touched by Ivy's words. Ratlua also supports Mila, saying taming is a noble skill that helps people. Later, Ratlua asks Ivy how they were, but she misunderstands and thinks he means Sora's reaction. He clarifies he meant the sweets at the restaurant. Ivy replies they were great and shares that he chose Flo because the owner, a trusted adventurer, ensures safety. The group reflects on how Greengale, once a trusted group, has turned traitor. Ratlua reminisces about his peaceful childhood in a safe town where good deeds were praised and mischief was corrected. Ivy recalls her own hometown before she turned 5 when life felt free. Unlike the restrictive environment now where children are constantly monitored by adults, Ratlua expresses a desire to restore peace to the town. In a meeting under the adventurer's barrier, the group learns Greengale tried to lure Ivy out in broad daylight. Given her protection by the Blazing Sword and Lightning King, targeting her is risky. Ivy speculates that Greengale might be scapegoats for a hidden, more dangerous organization. This group could use Greengale as distractions while retrieving stolen money and documents. Ivy suggests letting herself be captured to mislead the organization into thinking security at the merchant base is relaxed. This could bait them into acting, allowing the Blazing Sword and Lightning King to ambush them. Though the plan is smart, Sazok and Baroda hesitate, worried about Ivy's safety. Ratlua vows to protect her no matter the cost. Ivy reasons that, as a target, she's safer narrowing the timing of attacks, while aiding in capturing the culprits. Her past self suggests tear gas, but as it doesn't exist in this world, she asks if magic items can put enemies to sleep. Sazok mentions a sleep sphere, but it affects everyone within range, including allies. Ivy insists they act now, while the enemy is unaware of their knowledge. At the Adventurers Guild, Guildmaster Rogue Leaf announces that protecting Ivy will showcase the town's safety to outsiders. He asks adventurers to introduce themselves. Meanwhile, at the merchant base, Vice Captain Agrop notices Captain Birksby is tense, but Birksby claims it's nothing. He mentions how Baroda, once discouraged by constant clashes with the criminal organization, now smiles thanks to Ivy's inspiring leadership. This change gives Birksby hope. Shifalo and his group approach Birksby, asking for a special unit to eliminate a monster hiding in a forest cave. Birksby is puzzled since suppression squads supposedly clear all monsters. Shifalo insists one escaped. Back at the guild, after introductions, Rogue Leaf promises a special assignment for the adventurers. Ivy feels exhausted, but continues her work, cheered on by Sora and Mila. Mila thanks Ivy for validating her trash disposal skills, saying it made her happy. Maruma and Torto reassure Ivy she's now safer with all the adventurers knowing her face. Ratlua agrees, and they plan another sweets outing. However, this is part of Ivy and Ratlua's ruse. At the merchant base, Berksby asks Shifali for more details about their monster plan. Shifali avoids specifics, wary of eavesdroppers. Gabajula informs Berksby that Agrop is forming the forest unit. Nuga advises Berksby not to send all his men, as the base remains a critical target for the organization. Gabajula, being familiar with the base, is entrusted to pick guards. Berksby notices most guards chosen by Gabajula are traitors. Elsewhere, Shifale reveals a sleep sphere, which will incapacitate both enemies and allies during the ambush. He also presents Berksby with a monster hunting item for additional defense. As the forest unit prepares to leave, Mila takes Ivy and Ratlua to a sweets shop, continuing their plan. In a sweet shop, Mila suggests to Ivy that she try the dansu, claiming it's the sweetest treat the shop offers. Latrua warns against it, saying that just one bite is so sweet it could make someone faint. The shop owner, Mr. Hogg, takes their order for 5 danzu. However, when Ivy looks at Sora, he trembles, showing that the shop owner is definitely up to no good. Ivy signals Ratlua, and the operation begins. As they wait for their sweets, Ratlua tells Green Gale that he has an urgent request from the guild master, which he shares because he trusts them. He explains that a special team of watchmen and adventurers is being sent to the forest to deal with a threat, leaving the town unguarded. Therefore, they need Green Gale's help with security in the town. Torto and Maruma wonder what's happening that's so serious. Ratlua reveals that ogres and an ogre king have been spotted in the forest. While all this is happening, Mr. Hag is lacing their sweets with drugs. As Ratlua and Ivy prepare not to eat the sweets, Ratlua mentions that the merchant base isn't being watched closely, and Mr. Hag quickly leaves the shop. Now that he's gone, Ratlua asks why Green Gale is working with the organization and how much they would get for kidnapping Ivy. Mila tries to deny this at first, but when Ratlua pushes their dishes toward the group, all 3 refuse to eat them. Mila finally gives in and tells her brothers they should stop. Maruma refuses and Torto scowls, questioning whether she plans to betray them. Ratlua reminds the brothers they are the real traitors for betraying the trust of the town. The brothers get up, ignoring the consequences, and prepare to fight. Torto and Maruma draw their weapons, but Ratlua tries to stop them, saying he doesn't want to fight. However, Maruma attacks anyway. Ratlua easily blocks Maruma's strikes and knocks him back. Although Ratlua doesn't have a defense skill, he has trained himself and believes his defense is stronger than Torto's. Torto, angry, attacks again, but Ratlua blocks him with ease. Ratlua, who has a 2-star longsword skill, Ratlua looks at Mila, who is clearly done with this life of crime. She apologizes for deceiving Ivy, but says she no longer wants to live this way. Both Ivy and Ratlua thank her for saving their lives. Just then, Flo, the owner of the first sweet shop they visited, enters and asks what's going on. Ivy explains that they are planning to strike against the organization. Meanwhile, at the merchant base, masked adventurers arrive, but it turns out to be a trick. Both sides, corrupt watchmen and adventurers, give signals that it's time to move the hidden treasure. The corrupt watchman directs the adventurers to a secret room in the library. 2 honest watchmen secretly observe, unsure of who is on their side. Count Fautoria enters the library and orders his followers to remove all the money and documents inside. However, he accidentally triggers a sleep sphere that knocks everyone out, both enemies and allies. In the forest, Captain Berksby and Agrop are aware that people are trying to ambush them. However, their plans are foiled by a 9-year-old monster Tamer. Berksby and Agrop prepare their plan, which was suggested by Shifala. The corrupted watchmen strike, but Agrop blocks an arrow so Berksby can trap them with a special electric net. Baroda headbutts one of them, and a confused good adventurer asks what is happening. Baroda explains the plan to him, and Sizelk orders the capture of all traitors. After the fight, but they are still grateful for the capture of the real traitors. Thanks to Ivy's plan, All the traitors, both among the Watch and adventurers, are captured. Although Ivy doesn't want to take all the credit, everyone thanks her for saving the town. As Count Faltoria is brought in, he demands to be freed, but Lord Ferronda informs him that he won't be. The guildmaster had already informed Ferronda about Faltoria's crimes, isn't interested in their banter. Finally, Ivy is given one last mission. A large group of people gathers, and Sizelk announces that they are still gathering information about the arrested organization members. They need everyone's help, and anyone who refuses to share what they know will be suspected of colluding with the organization. Barolda explains that those who were near the organization's base must be investigated, and they need to capture anyone who was watching over the base. Sora, excited to work, looks at her bag, and Ivy prepares for the next step. In the guild hall, Birksby and Agrop thank Ivy again for helping them stop the evil organization that has been causing trouble in Ottawa for years. Birksby then gives her a summary of the events and a list of those who were arrested. According to the guild report, it wasn't just the traitors in town who were caught. Investigations based on documents from their old base led to 58 people being added to a kingdom-wide wanted list, with 45 already detained. It wasn't just the nobility, but even royal family members were involved. The new information keeps surprising them. On the last page, Ivy finds her reward for helping them. 15 gold tablets, or 150 laddo. Doing the math, 150,000 field mice would be worth that much. If she dried the meat from all those mice, eating 3 a day for 365 days, she could live off it for 140 years. Outside of town, Ivy and Sora check their traps but find none of them were triggered. Just then, Ciel appears and pushes the rodents into Ivy's traps. At the butcher's shop, the butcher admires Ivy's fresh and neatly prepared meat. He offers her a good payment, and the meat is used for tonight's celebration. GM Rogleaf gives a toast to honor the destruction of the organization, and everyone happily serves Ivy huge plates of meat, though she can't eat it all. Ratlua tells them to stop serving her so much, but they wonder why, since he usually gives Ivy the biggest portion. Baroda thanks Ivy, telling her that Count Faltoria has confessed to his crimes. Some members of nobility were involved, and things are chaotic in the royal capital. Despite the bad guys being caught, Ivy is still worried about Mila. Rogleaf reports that Green Gale wasn't very important and was used as a decoy. They didn't know anything important and haven't committed many crimes. Meanwhile, Mila, in jail, expresses relief that she won't have to commit any more crimes. She seems to be getting some leniency for betraying her brothers. Rogleaf also discovered that Ivy and Sora were behind uncovering the criminals. After looking through the list of magic items, he became suspicious of the small orb they use. He understands why Sora's existence needs to be kept secret. So at Rogleaf's request, Ivy lets Sora out of the bag. Rogleaf is surprised by the translucent slime and thanks Sora for all his hard work. He then asks Ivy if she wants to stay in Ottawa. He knows she plans to go to the royal capital, but if she has no reason to leave, the people here would love to have her. They'd even prepare a house for her. Ivy thinks about what fortune teller Luba had told her. If she found a place she liked along the way to the royal capital, she shouldn't force herself to keep traveling. But she would need to find people she could trust and tell them everything. Holding Sora close, Ivy admits she's starless, which surprises everyone. She tells them how, when she was 5, everyone is saddened by Ivy's story, and Ratlua praises her for making it this far. He's in tears, knowing how hard it must have been. Sizelk is impressed that she didn't lose hope. They all tell her they'll always be there for her, and she cries as they remind her she never has to worry about her stars again. They promise to keep her secret if she doesn't want people to know. Ivy smiles, knowing she can continue her journey with peace of mind. Ratlua is surprised that she isn't staying in Ottawa, but Ivy explains that her journey up to this point was about running away, thinking she'd be killed if people found out she was starless. Everyone is happy for her, but it's harder now to say goodbye. Rickvelt says he'll really miss Sora. They celebrate even harder, knowing Ivy will be leaving, and Ivy wonders if this is what happiness feels like. As they see her off, she twirls with the new magic bags they gave her, which can hold more and weigh less. Bergsby also mentions that he looked into disintegrating slimes and tells Ivy that only she could have tamed one because slimes like Sora are too weak for even a 1-star tamer. If Ivy hadn't tamed him, Sora might have just disintegrated. This makes Ivy realize that maybe Sora was born just to meet her. With their final farewell, the group tells Ivy to think of Ottawa as her home and to come back anytime. Suddenly, Chiel jumps out of the bushes, surprising everyone. Chifflet remarks that Ivy seems more powerful than any star-ranked tamer. And with that, Ivy, Sora, and their group continue their journey. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the recap, give us a thumbs up and subscribe for more. Share your thoughts in the comments and stay tuned for our next video.